In our episode, we are going to talk about from cancer to healing your life, and I'm here with an honor guest, Orsika Julia, and we are going to talk about her journey and all of the things that she had to struggle with in order to first beat cancer, and second start discovering a lot of things about her body, her health, and plenty of things that we are going to discuss. So Orsika grew up in the medical world with her father being a pediatrician. She worked in his office as a teenager and was fascinated by the connection between healthy eating habits and living a healthy life. Recently, Orsika championed breast cancer and is well on her way to her own healing. Taking this journey and educating others about the real side of cancer is a newfound passion Orshika now has. She's taking the struggles of breast cancer and brings a brave and vulnerable look at the journey endured. Thank you, Orshika, for being here.
I'm thrilled to be here. This is very exciting, and I love this new part of my journey. I mean, sure, cancer had to come into it, but without it, I wouldn't be here doing this. So I'm just thrilled. Thank you.
So let's begin with your story about how you grew up with your father and what was the influence that he had in living this healthy life, because I was interested how you uh, were impacted by those kind of things or habits. Mhm.
Absolutely. So, father was a pediatrician, and my mom was a stay-at-home domestic goddess, and so everything we ate was from the kitchen, right? There wasn't, I remember going to McDonald's for the first time. I was 12 years old, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. 12 years old in America, right? For the first time. It's almost unheard of. And anyway, it was quite the experience. And so we just grew up in a healthy household, right? We grew our own vegetables, and I remember going to the slaughterhouse and picking out the half a pig that we then bought, and they chopped up and we brought home. And I hope that's not too graphic, but that was just our reality. And that was our life. And Appa, my dad, he before ADD and ADHD were like a diagnosable thing, he was really on the forefront of that. And his passion was teaching parents how diet is associated with ADD and ADHD. And so that fascination just kind of trickled down to me as well. And, absolutely diet impacts our health. And let me just be the first to say that my diet as an adult, as a single parent, wasn't the greatest. Thankfully, I have a great metabolism, so God bless me with that, but that doesn't mean I ate the healthiest of foods. So when the cancer diagnosis came, I wasn't really surprised. I was just like, well, yeah, I should have taken better care of myself, but you can't undo the past. All you can do is learn from it, right? And do better in the future. So that's what I'm doing.
Mhm. So, and how did you took all those habits into your life? Let's say from your teenage years through your young adulthood. How did you relate to those kind of habits? Did you apply them? You didn't like them? Did you reject them, or what happened there?
No, I ate great until I became a single parent. I really did. And even then, I did okay because I knew that the kids needed healthy food. So I gave my children healthy food as much as possible. Uh, but it was like those energy drinks so that I kept going. That's where my flaw was, right? But no, I mean, into my teenage years and into my young adulthood, I still was a pretty healthy eater. And in comparison to traditional eating, I still think that at my worst, I was still eating pretty healthily. And that was absolutely the influence of my parents. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that because my daughter now is being influenced by me, by the way I eat, and I try to ask her questions about the things that she wants to eat sometimes, and try to teach her about the different kind of sugars that food has, and that she can recognize the names, because those tricky food companies, they use these technical names where obviously people that doesn't have a science background won't understand them, won't even know that is sugar,
Right.
just consume those things, and they feel anxious, and they start having these symptoms of ADHD. So that's what I have told her, and fortunately she took them well, and she doesn't really like those candies. She doesn't eat too much sugary things. So I think that's the easiest way to introduce a child into a healthier world, so that you can grow up and be more conscious. And that doesn't mean that there will be some times where you can derail, or you can start eating some things that you know that they are not good for you, but you have just a phase. You are not just throughout your life like that. So that's probably much healthier, and creates some resilience in your genes that allows you to overcome certain diseases, no?
I would agree with that. I do have to say, I'm going to be very honest here. When it was just me and my daughters, we would have Sundays for Friday dinner.
Well,
So
that,
there was an ice cream place, and we would that was our treat. Like, we made it through the week. We're having Sundays for, for Friday dinner. But even that's an okay treat. It's not like we should neglect ourselves and the fun that we can have. It's just everything in moderation, right? There's just consider what you're putting into your body and how it's going to affect, not how will it, but it's going to affect your mind and your spirit and your emotions and your entire being, for
yeah,
sure. Yes.
yes, yes. And also the amount of activity that you do, because there are people that are completely sedentary, and they eat those kind of things, and well, you are just giving your body the perfect mix to
Yes.
create the disease, no?
Yes, absolutely. And that's so I say in one breath that I wasn't surprised that I ended up with the cancer. And in another breath, I was, because I was like, well, I'm pretty healthy. I exercise. I used to run. I mean, I used to be into sports, right? And so it was just kind of like, oh, yeah, it was the food. It was the sugars. Like, and other things, right? Genetics has some to do with it, but it doesn't have to. But yeah, it was a weird realization to be like, huh, okay, I did that to myself. And past trauma, right? So trauma has so much to do with how it affects our our makeup. So
Yeah.
yes.
And now that you brought up this past trauma, I was going to ask you, how was your childhood in terms of the emotions and attachment that you had with your parents?
Yeah. I think it was pretty okay, right? Like, no childhood is perfect, but I remember having a happy childhood. So that was good. It was when I became an adult that I put myself and my children into traumatic experiences. So parent fail, but you can't undo the past. You just work on being healthier in the future. And we were in a domestic violence situation, and we escaped that. And so, I'm sure that my DNA carried that. And
Mm.
yeah, it caused disease because it's dis-ease in our body, as we know.
Yeah. And how did you detect those kind of emotions when you were in in that situation, and you decide to just get out from there? Or what did you think that attracted you to that kind of environment at the beginning?
Oh, low self-esteem. 100%. When adults put themselves into any sort of domestic abuse or partner violence or whatever, if it's a partnership, we're not talking like random one-off, somebody assaulted me in the street. We're talking like in a relationship. We subconsciously put ourselves there because of low self-esteem.
Okay.
If I would have loved myself then the way I do now, there's no way I would have been in that situation ever. If you truly love yourself and truly respect yourself, you're never, ever going to deal with somebody diminishing your light or trying to put it out at all. Yeah.
And how was the journey when you were diagnosed with cancer?
Oh, it was interesting. So back in February of 19, I had a biopsy. So this was breast cancer, right? And in February of 19, I had a biopsy and it was cancer-free on my breast. But then in August of 2019, I said, let's just go in there and take this out because I really don't want something hiding behind it, thinking it could be sneaky. So we did that, no big deal. And so I've been with this breast surgeon since February of 2019. And so in November of 23, we found another lump in the same breast, and she did the same thing. And she's been doing this for like 25 years at least. So it's not like she's new into this world, right? And her specialty is being a breast surgeon. So in November of 2023, we found another lump. And she said, let's just keep an eye on it. It's behaving like the other one did. So let's just have you back in 6 months and check it out again. No problem. So went back in 6 months and she said, let's just take it out like we did the last time. Still looks the same, no big deal. So we went in for a lumpectomy. After surgery, she said, everything looks fine. Everything looks great. And we didn't do a biopsy this time because it behaved the same way. And she had all the signs that showed that it wasn't cancer. So she said, go home. We'll see you in 6 months. See how you're doing. My husband and I were like, okay, we're going home. That was May 9th. And then May 16th, a week later, we get the pathology report and I'm reading it. And, I'm medically pretty okay smart, right? I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty okay smart. And when I'm not sure of something, I look it up online and like useful resources, right? Like Johns Hopkins and Mayo Clinic and like actual valid places of what specific terms mean. And I said to my husband, I think I have cancer, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to message our doctor and have her read the pathology report because we just got it that day and she is super full busy and none of us were expecting it to be cancer. So I sent her a message, via the telemed or whatever. And she called me Friday morning and she's like, okay, I'm opening this up right now. Let's take a look at it. And she was completely shocked that I had cancer. It was as much of a shock to her as anybody. And she said, okay, let's get you in. This was now May 17th. Let's get you in for a consultation and see what our next steps are. So she was like, Johnny on the spot. Let's not mess around with this. So that's how it started in May of 2024.
And it was, I assume it was an early stage.
Yes, it was, thankfully. So what she told us to do was to get an MRI to see, if it's spread anywhere. So she told us to get an MRI and to set up an appointment with the plastic surgeon because we had decided to have a bilateral mastectomy. So for layman's terms, that's both breasts removed and then have reconstruction. I was 50 at the time. And I would have been fine-ish without the reconstruction, but I'm like, if there were extenuating complications throughout the process, I wouldn't have continued with it. But it was relatively easy. I say that very loosely and maybe with a hint of sarcasm because it really wasn't easy, but it was easier than people that I know who are going through it still, right? So I called the MRI place office on Monday. So the 17th was a Friday. I called the office on Monday. They had an appointment for me that day. And I called the plastic surgeon's office and they had an appointment for me the next day. So this was definitely God working the whole thing, right? Because she said that the MRI was usually about 3 weeks out and it takes another couple of weeks to get the results. And she said, the plastic surgeon, you probably won't get in until June. And this is mid-May. And I got both of those appointments, boom, boom. And then we did lumpectomy. No, we did a lymph node removal surgery. And it wasn't in the lymph node. So it was very, very early stages, thankfully. But they did find, when the bilateral happened, they did find 2 different places that the cancer, so there was cancer growing again in the same breast. So honestly, if we would have waited 6 months, it would be a vastly different story. And if we would have waited a year to a year and a half, I may not be telling this story. Yeah.
So I think the highlight of this story is that you should really check you and detect those kind of inconsistencies, let's say,
Yes.
in your body, or
Yes.
things that you feel that were not there, and quickly go and ask for an analysis of those things, a biopsy.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And the funny thing is, in November, like I felt a lump in my breast and it was a little sore, but then it went away. So then I didn't think about it. So it didn't behave like cancer at all, like your typical cancer diagnoses, behaviors, here you go on a platter. Mine weren't even on the platter. I mean, it wasn't a thing. And I even had a mammogram in January, and the mammogram showed I didn't have anything going on. So highly encourage women, and sometimes men get breast cancer as well. I don't know if your audience knows that, but it's a fact. Like I think 1 out of 10, or I don't know, it's a lower number than you expect, right? So I think it's about 1 out of 10 men also have breast cancer, but mammograms aren't gonna always tell you. So if there's history in the family, or if you feel like there's a lump in the breast, but it's not showing up on a mammogram, I would highly encourage the ultrasound, because that's how my breast doctor found it, is through the ultrasound. So, and find a good doctor who is going to shoot you straight, give it to you straight.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
did you have any other symptoms in terms of, I don't know, lack of sleep, or certain foods that you didn't tolerate? Anything? No?
Nothing. I had no idea what was going on.
That's a dangerous part of any kind of cancer, that it is so silent in many aspects,
Yes.
and sometimes that's what happens when you are not attuned to your body messages, and you can let it go and advance. And well, that's, as you mentioned, that would be a whole another story if you were waiting. No.
The funny thing is, your body gives you the signals. So we have to really listen to our bodies, because even though I didn't feel any different, I noticed after the cancer was removed that the color to my lips came back, but I've always had very pale lips. So some people just do and some people don't. But they were just very pale for, I don't know, probably that 9 months time, or maybe even longer than that. Honestly, I don't recall, but I remember that the color of my lips came back and I was like, that's interesting. And also my hair wasn't falling out in such major amounts as before. So my body was telling me something was up in very subtle ways, like we're trying to fight something in your body. And would I not have had the ultrasound scanning every year since 2019, I would say, I wasn't taking care of myself or whatever, but we did the ultrasound, we did the mammograms, and it just showed up, because in the previous November, it wasn't there. So, but my body told me through, for me, it was pale lips and my hair falling out. We got the cancer out, the color of my lips came back, and I'm amazed at how much more hair I have. I really am. So, absolutely, for your audience, listen to those subtle changes. And that doesn't mean jump to conclusions and you have to go cut your foot off. There's no reason to be dramatic, right? But just listen to those, pay attention to those very subtle things that your body tells you. You know, if you're a little bit more tired than usual, it's so easy in any culture to be like, oh, I'm just super busy. That's why I'm more tired. Or, you know, my hair's falling out more because I'm more stressed. That was my excuse because I didn't know what else it could be. I mean, that made sense to me, right? Or I'm not eating enough greens. That's why my lips were paler than before. Just just be cognizant, you know, and be gentle with yourself. And I did blame myself and I was like, how could I not have noticed? Well, I did notice. I just didn't know what the signs were.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we are, well, there is a mixture here because sometimes if you are attuned, you detect those things, but you can think a lot of things as you did, no? That and you were not in the radar of cancer, and no one has to be unless you have a history of cancer.
Right.
Or if you don't have a history, well, of course that you are not going to think about that word and about that
Sure.
disease. So it's complicated, but also detecting those signs from your body, I think it's extremely important. And I try to always highlight that because I usually uh, try to do that more and more. And as I have evolved in this also wellness and holistic journey of myself, I have also discovered that our bodies are incredibly powerful to heal, and we have made them weak, and we have
Yes.
made them, let's say, lazy also,
Yes. Yes.
because we don't have time, and we
Yes.
want to heal in just one day, and we take a pill, and that's it. And
Yes.
probably we feel better with the symptoms, but we didn't cure anything. We just
Yes.
put a layer on the symptom, and then there is underneath that there are many other things that are happening,
Yes.
and your body is just trying to communicate with you all the
Yes.
time. I recently, in the past 2 weeks, I had a weird allergy that I was constipated in my nose, and I had some sore throat, and I that started with something that happened to my brother. So when we talk about it, my brother was robbed or assaulted, and they took away all his money and things. And but well, he was also a little bit careless because he went to a very dangerous place in the city, and I had emotions struggling in myself. And right after that, I also discussed that with my therapist, and we talk about those things. And right after those days, I started to have this sore throat, and then my nose started to get constipated. So
Mm-hmm.
I start looking for the emotional cause of the disease, because I usually go to those places, and I usually rely on Louise Hay about
Yes.
how she discovered the amazing connection of our emotions and the body symptoms.
Yes.
And the constipation means that you felt overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
and you couldn't express the emotions that you had. So things were stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So my nose was reflecting that, and I didn't take anything. I didn't take anything for the pain, anything for the nose. I just let it heal by itself. And we went on vacation, and when I arrived to the place, to the beach, I start feeling better and start to flow everything. And and I said, this is just amazing. I just had one day that I had a fever and that I really felt like sick, let's say.
Right.
But it was just that. And the body was doing its job,
Yes.
raising the temperature to kill the bacteria or virus, whatever it was,
Yes.
and just trying to release everything with the fluids and the mucus and all of those things that are, I'm also graphic in that way, but
That's okay.
this is the body that, and that's how it behaves. And
Yes.
that's the course of the disease.
Yes.
We need to let our bodies reclaim that power
Yes.
and allow us to heal by itself, no?
Yes. I totally agree. I totally agree. Because realistically, and exactly what you said, right? That if you haven't had cancer before, you're not going to think that. That's not a natural thought. There's so many other things that could affect you. Your environment, your stress level, your lack of sleep will cause, other issues as well. And the funny thing with my breast cancer journey is that I did take the genetic testing and they tested like 70 of the most common cancer genes, the ones where the cancer shows up. I had none of them.
Mm.
That's one single one. So I had my appointment in November of 23 and we did the testing in November of 23. And so that's why it was like no cancer. And yet just because science proves that there isn't the opportunity, it doesn't mean that your body and your mind, especially when you have had PTSD and gotten out of trauma, it it defies science. So
Mm.
what's up here is so important, and how we talk to ourselves and how we treat ourselves and how we view things, that'll come out here if we don't have it right here and in our hearts. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to something that you said previously about your children because I think that you mentioned that you were not like the best parent at the beginning, or so can you explain why you said that, please?
Oh, because I am certain that I could have cooked more for them or fed them healthier food. We went for the
Oh,
healthy options, but let's just say McDonald's isn't always the healthier option. Even if you're just getting a chicken wrap, why are you at McDonald's getting a chicken wrap? And I'm not saying this to shame anybody because I was there. So zero shame towards anybody. But yeah, I mean, looking back, I absolutely could have fed them healthier. But I also show myself kindness and remember that being a single parent is challenging. And the fact that they made it through and are thriving in life is, we're taking that win, David. We're taking the win.
of course. How,
Yes.
how many children you have?
I have three.
Three.
Yep.
And ages more?
So technically I have five with my husband, but I raised three. So they're 25 and then she'll be 24. The next one in line will be 24 at the end of May. And then the youngest is 17. So they'll be 18, 24, and 26 this year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that's a big challenge to be a single mom of three and to get out from that environment that you were living. So
Sure.
all of those things translated into keeping those emotions that probably it's funny, but if you think about that kind of thing that you lived and that you recognize that you were in an environment that was toxic for you and your children, of course, this this is the way your body behave as you describe it also because it showed first a lump. So first this connection with that
Right.
emotion, and then you said, well, there's nothing happens, and you kept your life going, and
Right.
then there comes another one. So
Yep.
I relate the stories, and your body was trying to tell you the same story, but in terms of a disease, no?
Yes, yes. And the funny thing is, so I'm a very much boots on the ground, let's go get life. Like we're doing things, right? All the time we're doing things. And my oldest one and my youngest one said to me during the cancer journey, they're like, man, mom doesn't slow down. Not even cancer has her slowing down as much as they'd like to see mom slow down, right? It's the way I'm wired, but there's so much truth in their words that cancer was the only thing that could slow me down, not take me out. But and it did for a few months. And they spoke truth from a place of love. Absolutely. So we have to remember that if we want a healthy body, we have to have a healthy mind, but we have to slow down. We have to go to the beach. We have to go to the woods. We have to take that time to replenish and rejuvenate and love ourselves enough to know that it's not, oh, I'm going to love myself enough in crisis mode. It's an everyday decision to love yourself enough. And I hear it. People will say, I don't have enough time. You do, though. You have the extra 3 minutes to take in the shower for your waterfall therapy, right? You have the choice of whether you want to go through McDonald's or you'd rather go to Subway. If you need a quick meal, there's choices. McDonald's and Burger King could be a choice. And again, I get it because, man, those Burger King onion rings are delicious. But your body's going to be much more receptive to a Subway salad or sandwich or, whatever your local Jimmy John's, whatever, right? Yeah. And then we'll get into the whole processed meat thing. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like the concept is the same. Like even if you want quick and easy, there are healthier choices. There's Core Eatery, who knows, just a whole bunch of healthier options.
Yeah. And can I share with you what Louise Hay says about these breast problems
Absolutely.
so that we can link all of those stories?
Absolutely.
So she says that when you have a breast problem, it's a refusal to nourish the self.
Yes.
And she
Yes.
says, putting everyone else first, over mothering, over protection,
Yes.
overbearing attitudes.
Yep. Right here. Over mothering. Absolutely. From as far back as I can remember, I knew that I wanted to be a mom because my mama bear self was just how I was created.
Mhm.
I don't know if overbearing necessarily, but over mothering. Funny thing. So my husband and I have been married a year and a half, and I told him the biggest challenge he's going to have with me is me being too mothering to him. He's a grown A man. He doesn't need me to tell him to put his socks on before, and that's just a minor detail, right? And I haven't done that, but he doesn't need me to tell him how to be a grown adult.
Mhm.
And yet I catch myself because I've always been a mom, even before my own children. Even at 10 years old, I was, loving on kids that didn't have the nurturing in their life. I remember in first grade, there was a boy in my class that was getting picked on, and my mama bear kicked in. So Louise Hay is absolutely on point with that. That's another reason it wasn't a surprise to me. So I'm like, oh, I'm over nurturing everybody else and not taking care of myself. Cool. Great. Good job.
And did you have it? Did you have this way of being in your system, or something in your childhood push you through to that place?
I think it's just the way I was made. I think that's just my genetic makeup was just to be nurturing because I don't remember a specific time. I think I've always just been nurturing towards others. But
Who the older in your family?
my siblings,
Mhm.
yes, they're pretty nurturing too in their own way. Yes. I just tend to take things to extremes, David.
Okay.
I get a little passionate about what I do, so So
Yeah, well,
yes,
I completely understand. I'm not judging. I am just trying to understand.
absolutely.
But I completely understand because also from my side, I am the older, and I felt that need of being extremely responsible. So I am completely different to my brother because he's really easygoing. He doesn't take life so seriously,
Yes.
and he just lives the, I don't know. For me, sometimes it's something that I would like to enjoy
Yes.
more
Yes.
because I am very controlling and obsessive with some things, and I try to understand many things, so I don't let thoughts really easy. So I give them just the analysis and all of those things because I was the older and I had to take care of my brother because we had also a story that was well, that lead us to that. No,
Okay. Yeah.
so but I understand why we develop these kind of behaviors and we fall into these kind of places because that's what we have to learn. No.
Yes. Yes. And part of, it's always that nature versus nurture, right? So I think nature made me a nurturer, but the nurture part of life definitely created that at an exponential level, right? So I'm the baby of the family. Um, and I feel like I was the emotional support human for others in our life. That's a gentle way of putting it. But yeah, I felt like I was the emotional. Now looking back, I feel like I was the emotional support human. And that definitely accelerated the nature part of me of wanting to nurture. So
Mm.
here we are, breast cancer survivor, all from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how are you using all of that wisdom and reflection and all of the things that happened through that journey to empower other people or to help them in their
Yeah.
own work?
So my wicked sense of humor wants to come back with, I'm not helping anybody. I'm just leaving them on the sidewalk. But I jest. I really jest. Yeah. So funny thing, when this happened, one of my first thoughts after you process through it, right? Because it's a lot of information that gets thrown at you in that 2 hour consultation. What are your next steps? What do you need to do? How are we getting this out of your body as quickly as possible? So after all that settled a little bit in my soul, it was, how am I going to use this to help others?
Mhm.
So now I write my blogs about the things that other people don't write about. And what I'm talking about is, it's going to take you an hour and a half, maybe, to get out of bed. Like, I'm just sharing my story. There was a morning it took me an hour and a half to get out of bed.
Mm.
It was awful. My husband was so super sweet. He was trying to get ready for work, and I just couldn't move because of the excruciating pain in my left side, on my back side, which is funny. Not funny, haha, but funny, interesting. And I just couldn't get out of bed. And he was still trying to get ready for work because he had to go to work. And I had to go to the bathroom and I had to get out of bed. And he kept coming back. And I'm like, that movement's not going to work because it was this excruciating pain in my side. And we just tried and tried and tried. And finally, I was like, okay, you're just going to have to suck it up and get out of bed because there's a bathroom down the hall. Like, you got to do it. So I write about the realities of that. And I speak about the realities of that clearly because I'm sharing it with you. And
Mhm.
that's the way I feel called to help others through their journey. It doesn't have to be cancer, it could be any other health crises, but just that they're not alone, because online you can read about the medical side of things so easily. But what about the personal side of things? What about the emotional part of things? Because I tell you, cancer, it messed me up a little bit emotionally. Not like it messed me up. I don't mean it that way, but it took a toll on me mentally and emotionally. That's probably a much better way of putting it. Uh, yeah, I didn't realize it was going to do that. And I would like people who are starting their cancer journey or major health crisis journey to understand that you are going to be mentally challenged and you are going to be emotionally challenged. And even though I'm passionate about the things I'm passionate about, I don't usually lose my cool. And there was one incident where I just lost it.
Mm.
I broke down. And okay, so one situation in 7 months isn't a bad deal, right? So again, I don't usually allow that part of me to come out. But there was one particular incident where I was like, nope, now I'm pissed, like, rah! And it was just everything coming out in that moment. And it's okay. But that's where my passion is to tell people you're going to get upset and it sucks. Like it just sucks. And people might get upset with you, but that's a them problem. And you getting upset with yourself, show yourself that kindness, just like you would if you were the caretaker for somebody who's going through it, right? So my passion is just sharing with people the true everyday realities of the cancer journey.
Yeah, it's so interesting everything that you mentioned because we also have been created with this society of instantaneous things to don't have time or to say that we don't have time to don't to feel guilty if we allow ourselves to just be without a plan, without a something to do, and we have lost the ability to be bored, to
Yes.
be just reflecting, just watching nature, or just taking a walk without any other agenda. No,
Yeah.
so and all of those moments are the ones that are going to lead us to reflect what is happening in our lives and also in our bodies
Yes.
when we don't feel that we are having the same level of energy or we have any other symptom. No.
Yes.
So now finally I want you to explain me the name of your blog, Out of the Quicksand, or your website. Why did
Yes.
you use that name?
Why did I use that? And I don't know, David, this is going to be just a quick sidestep. I don't know if you hear my chickens, but I have chickens in the room beside me. Do you hear them
Yeah,
through this?
I thought it was my window and the birds here. Okay.
We're raising chicks and they're still
Okay.
in the room. And this is the room where they are. So if any of you are hearing chicks, you're not losing your mind. I promise you, there are actual live chickens in the room with me. But out of the quicksand. So that actually started with my business for sexual assault awareness,
Mm.
and just then it really just morphed into now the breast cancer thing. Like we are in quicksand in various parts of our life. For me, it started with the domestic violence, and then it was the cancer, and so it's just giving people hope, right? That you can get out of the quicksand. You can get out of your quicksand. We've all been there. And it's a horrible place to be. But that's where you reach out. You've seen those, maybe you haven't, but there are pictures online. If you look up quicksand, there will be pictures of a person with the hand up, reaching for somebody for help to get out of the quicksand. And that's really what we need to do when we're in the cusp of the crap. May I say that? Is that okay?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Like I don't want to offend anybody, but when we're in it, when we're in the quicksand, we need to reach out and ask for help. And it's okay to, because there will be somebody there. And it might be a perfect stranger on the street who gives you a hug, but there's going to be somebody there that's going to help you out of your quicksand. And it took me quite a while to get the name of that. And it just kind of hits, right? It hits with all aspects of life.
Mhm.
So I love it. So that's my website name. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So, how can we summarize or wrap up your journey into, let's say, into a message that you want to give to people so that they can feel that they are supported or that there is hope.
Yes, absolutely. There always is hope. And that's the key thing, right? Is to just not give up hope on yourself and on others. There's nothing worse than being told that people have given up hope on you. That's kind of a bad place to be. But the message is to listen to your body, treat your body well. And just because you haven't been treating your body well and you prefer the pizza, guilty, and chips, guilty again, and the ice cream, and let's say you're overweight and you're under exercised, that doesn't mean you keep making that choice. It's just a simple choice every day to give yourself the opportunity for a better life. And your body will thank you for it. And the disease hopefully won't get you, but just the hope is to listen to your body and to treat your body with the respect that it deserves, right? Treat your body like you would your best friend, and treat your mind like you would your best friend, because oftentimes we're our own worst critic and we're not really nice to ourselves. But then if you look at it and go, okay, if I was my own best friend, how would I treat this situation? How would I treat this choice? Then we're a lot kinder. So pretend you're your own best friend. Take care of your body, take care of your mind, take care of your emotions. And there's so many resources out there for that. It's just being brave and courageous and asking for help. That's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do, your life will change.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening to this episode. If you have any questions, if you have something to ask Orsika, where can you find the your links? Those are
Right there.
okay,
Yep. You can scan the QR code, get a hold of me that
perfect.
way. And yeah, I'm just so appreciative to be on this platform with you, David. And I so appreciate your audience for listening. And I just hope that everybody had a strong takeaway from it.
I think they will, and for sure they will reflect more about what is happening in their own lives emotionally and also physically. You know?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Orsika.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. Bye.